The sun blazed down on the open highway as sleek cars sped past without a glance. In the breakdown lane, a black luxury sedan sat still, its hood open, steam rising in lazy curls. James stepped out, his polished shoes crunching against the gravel. Dressed in an expensive tailored suit, he looked more like a man on his way to a boardroom than someone stranded on the side of the road. He pressed his phone, only to see the black screen stare back. Battery dead. Frustration tightened his jaw. He had meetings lined up, investors waiting, and here he was, helpless beside his prized car that had chosen the worst moment to fail. He waved at a few passing cars, but none slowed down. A truck sped by, then another. No one cared. For a man used to doors opening at his presence, the silence was jarring. He loosened his tie, glanced under the hood, and immediately regretted it. He had no clue what he was looking at. Sweat began to bead on his forehead. He had both from the heat and the building anxiety. The engine hissed again, taunting him. The loneliness of the highway stretched around him, amplifying his isolation. He leaned against the car, looking down the road, hoping for a miracle, or at least a kind soul willing to stop. His pride battled with his need for help, and this wasn't the kind of problem money could solve, not right now. And for the first time in a long while, James felt small. A faint rumble echoed down the road as a dusty old pickup truck approached from the distance. James barely looked up, assuming it would pass like all the others. But instead it slowed and came to a stop just ahead of him. The engine shut off and the door creaked open. A woman stepped out, tall, composed, wearing oil-streaked jeans and a faded t-shirt. Her skin glowed under the sun, and her eyes, though kind, held the weight of someone who had seen life from the ground up. She walked toward him with calm confidence, not rushed, not hesitant. "You need help?" she asked, her voice warm but steady. James blinked, surprised. He nodded, a little taken aback. "Yeah, my car just stopped. I think the engine overheated, but I'm not sure." She didn't hesitate. Moving past him, she leaned into the hood, glancing quickly at the engine. "Mind if I take a look?" she asked, already reaching for a rag in her back pocket. James nodded again, unsure of what to say. And as she examined the car, he watched her hands move with practiced ease. She didn't flinch at the heat or the grime. For the first time that day, a flicker of hope replaced his frustration. There was something quietly powerful about the way she took control, not arrogant, just certain. He stood there, feeling both grateful and oddly out of place. The world he came from rarely met this kind of grace. James shifted awkwardly on his feet, watching as Maya worked under the hood with ease, her hands moving swiftly between hoses and bolts. He felt useless, out of place in his tailored suit and polished shoes, standing beside someone who clearly knew what she was doing. She didn't talk much, just nodded to herself and muttered once or twice about the radiator. Her calm focus contrasted sharply with his earlier panic. Wanting to fill the silence, he cleared his throat. "You do this often?" he asked, forcing a smile. She glanced at him briefly. "Sometimes. Depends who needs it." Her tone was light but firm, not inviting deeper questions. Still, James persisted. "You work as a mechanic?" She shrugged. "Not officially, just picked up some things." James nodded, pretending to understand. The longer he watched her, the more humbled he felt. This woman, with grease on her fingers and wisdom in her eyes, had shown up when no one else did, and she asked for nothing in return. He looked down at his hands, clean, useless. A wave of discomfort passed through him. He was used to control, to being the one who offered help, not needed it. For the first time in years, he realized what it felt like to be vulnerable, and how deeply dignity could live in those who had far less but gave far more. Maya reached deeper into the engine bay, her fingers working carefully around the hot components. As she leaned in, the sunlight caught something on her left hand, a ring. James's eyes were drawn to it, not because it was flashy, but because it stood out in its simplicity. A silver band, worn but cared for, with a small engraved design barely visible from his distance. There was a quiet elegance to it, a kind of story etched into its age. James tilted his head slightly, curiosity piqued. "That's a beautiful ring," he said gently, not wanting to intrude but unable to stop himself. Maya froze for the briefest moment. Her hands stilled. Then she pulled back slowly, closed the hood halfway and wiped her hands on her jeans. Her face had changed, softened, but also clouded by something deeper. She glanced at the ring for a second, then met his eyes. "Thanks," she said quietly. "It's not new. Been with me a long time." James sensed there was more beneath those words, but he didn't press. The way she looked at the ring, it wasn't just jewelry. It was memory, history, love. Something sacred. In that small pause, a shift occurred between them. The conversation had moved beyond engines and roadside repairs. Now it stood on the edge of something personal, something that hurt, but still mattered. Maya let out a slow breath, her fingers brushing the ring as if grounding herself. "It was my husband's," she said softly, eyes fixed on the horizon. "He gave it to me before our wedding. Said it wasn't much, but it came with everything he had, his heart, his hands, his promise." Her voice was steady, but there was a tremble just beneath it, a quiet storm held back by grace. James listened, his expression shifting from polite curiosity to deep attentiveness. Maya continued, "He was a mechanic, worked hard, never complained. We built a life out of almost nothing. Then one night, he stayed late helping a woman stranded on the side of the road. Just like you." She paused. A drunk driver hit him. The words fell heavy between them, the silence that followed more powerful than anything else she could have said. "That was 3 years ago. I still fix cars sometimes, not for money, just feels like he's with me when I do." She gave a faint smile, eyes shimmering. "This ring reminds me who I am, who we were, and why I still stop when I see someone in trouble." James felt a lump in his throat. The woman before him wasn't just helping him fix a car. She was honoring a legacy, keeping love alive through service. And in that moment, she seemed stronger than anyone he had ever known. James stood quietly, the wind brushing against his face, but all he could feel was the weight of her words. Her story stirred something inside him he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. He looked down, his jaw clenched, his polished appearance suddenly feeling shallow. "I lost someone too," he said finally, voice low. "My brother, 6 months ago." Maya looked up, her expression softening. "He was the only family I had left. We started the company together. He was the heart of it. I buried myself in work to escape the grief. Thought success would numb it." His eyes glassed over. "But I still wake up feeling like something's missing, like all the money in the world can't fill the silence he left behind." Maya didn't say anything right away. She simply nodded, her silence validating rather than judging. "Loss doesn't go away," she said gently. "You just learn to carry it differently." James met her gaze, and in that moment, titles, wealth, and social gaps dissolved. There was no millionaire and mechanic, just two people connected by pain and the quiet courage to keep going. Something inside him shifted, her strength, her resilience. It didn't just move him, it humbled him. James reached into his wallet and pulled out a few crisp bills, offering them to Maya with a grateful look. "Please, let me pay you for your time. You saved me today." Maya glanced at the money, then back at him, her expression calm but firm. "No, thank you," she said. "I didn't stop for money." He hesitated, hand still outstretched. "Then how can I repay you?" She smiled softly, eyes filled with quiet wisdom. "Help someone else when they need it. That's how you repay me." Her words landed like a lesson, not a request. James slowly lowered his hand, the money suddenly feeling meaningless. She reached for her tools, packed them neatly into her truck, and wiped her hands once more. People helped me when I didn't have anything. This is just my way of giving back. He nodded slowly, the moment imprinting itself on his heart. You're something rare, you know that, he said quietly. She gave a half smile, already stepping into her truck. Not rare, just remembering where I come from. With that, she started the engine, gave him a wave, and drove off, leaving James standing there, not just with a working car, but with a changed spirit. Weeks had passed since that day on the roadside, but Maya hadn't forgotten the man in the suit with the broken car and the heavy heart. One morning, as she returned from the grocery store, she found an envelope in her mailbox. No return address, just her name handwritten in careful lettering. Inside was a letter on fine paper. It was from James. He wrote about how her words had stayed with him, how her kindness had shaken something awake in him. He confessed he had spent his life building wealth, but never truly understood the value of giving, until he met her. At the bottom of the letter was a folded brochure and a photo. Her breath caught. It was a picture of a building, clean, bright, newly renovated, with a sign above the door. The Elijah Garage, in honor of those who help without asking. The letter explained that James had funded a community garage in her late husband's name. Free repairs for single mothers, veterans, and anyone struggling to make ends meet, staffed by skilled volunteers. At the grand opening, Maya stood quietly in the corner, ring on her finger, eyes full of tears. She placed her hand gently on the sign, whispering her husband's name. The world had seen her, and more importantly, her love had created a ripple, a silent legacy living on through every life it would now touch.